Bitcoin is evolving faster than a society can digest it. It was misunderstood by me in the year 2013. It was misunderstood again in 2015, 2017, 2019, 2021. It'll continue when Bitcoin is 100,000. It'll continue when Bitcoin is 1 million. I would say 95% of the decision makers in the finance world still don't really embrace or understand the idea of digital energy, digital capital, digital money. And I don't think it's a bad thing, because the only way you're going to make 10 to 100x your money is if you pick the right thing and everybody disagrees with you. You know, if you think about gold and why gold failed, one reason gold failed is it's so incredibly difficult to custody. So there's a famous story where Schott traveled to New York City, met with the head of the Fed, Ben Strong, and Ben Strong wanted to show him the German gold, took him down into the basement of the New York Fed, and they couldn't find the gold.
前几天我看到一个网红影片分享，
只要提到加密货币、
投资、
邮
理
票，
财，
一律都是诈骗，没有例外，真的没有例外。
我认同有很多诈骗透过加密货币，但加密货币真的都是诈骗吗？我们普通人真的无法从中获利吗？但我从2021年开始投资比特币，价格到现在已经上涨4倍以上，不仅让我很开心在美国玩1个月，而且在旅游过程中，比特币又再度创新高，让我不用工作，资产却持续增加。为什么多数人不理解比特币，甚至反对比特币？我在 Michael Saylor 最新的访谈中找到了答案，以及为什么他认为比特币胜过黄金，是一种更安全的资产。如果你担心手上的台币、美元不断贬值，正在寻找更好的投资标的；如果你担心遇到诈骗，不想将每天辛辛苦苦工作赚到的钱送给诈骗集团；如果你想要每年出国旅游，资产能持续增加。这一集将会完整告诉你上班族该如何搭上这班比特币财富列车。嗨，我是 Emma。
When an airfoil moves faster than the speed of sound, like an airplane goes faster than the speed of sound, it creates a shock wave and a sonic boom. And it's very loud, it's very noisy, it's very turbulent. And what's going on when you're going faster than the speed of sound is you're going faster than the rate at which air can communicate to the air in front of it, right? The molecules in front of your fuselage are not able to communicate to the molecules 100 meters in front of you. So you end up with this sonic boom and massive turbulence and massive noise and chaos. What's going on with Bitcoin is evolving faster than a society can digest it. And so I think you could say this is all consistent. Bitcoin was misunderstood in the year 2011. It was misunderstood by me in the year 2013. It was misunderstood again in 2015, 2017, 2019, 2021. When we first got into the space in 2020, there were people that misunderstood it, and we had massive amount of criticism when our stock was $10 a share. When our stock went to $100 a share, it was massive amount of criticism again. When it crashed to $20 a share, there was still massive criticism. When we had $2 billion of Bitcoin, people were cackling, or $1 billion, saying, oh, you lost $1 billion on this. When we made $100 billion, everybody disappeared and slunk into the shadows. And then a new set of trolls, a new set of critics came out when our market cap went above 100 billion. It's a different set of cynics, a different set of critics, a different set of misconceptions. I think you're going to see the ebb and flow of that set of misconceptions and that anxiety. It'll continue when Bitcoin is 100,000. It'll continue when Bitcoin is 1 million. It'll continue when Bitcoin is 10 million. It'll continue when Bitcoin goes to 20 million. And there's always going to be a new narrative of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. It'll be a different generation. You know, the people that used to laugh and say, oh yeah, you lost $1 billion trading in Bitcoin, they're gone. they disappeared, right? There'll be a new generation of people that say, do you think it makes sense to buy Bitcoin at $1 million a coin? It's going to trade down to 500,000, right? And then there'll be a set of people that will say, you're buying it at 10 million a coin, it's going to trade to 6 million, you moron, you lost so much money. This is how societies deal with new ideas. If you study paradigm shifts, how long did it take to embrace electricity? How long did people thought John D. Rockefeller was crazy for 30 years until he was the richest man in the world. And then and at the point that he was the richest man in the world, people thought, well, that trade is done. And that was just when they invented the automobile and he got 10 times richer, right? And so the society doesn't really deal with paradigm shifts that well in near term, but after 30, 40, 50 years, you look back and you say, well, of course we should have embraced the fire, the electricity, the wheel, the crude oil, the nuclear, even nuclear power right now, for example. Nuclear power has only become cool or useful in the last 2 years. Okay, so for 50 years, people thought nuclear power was an awful thing, and all of a sudden they woke up and they realized that I guess we need nuclear energy to power the AI data centers to make us super intelligent, and if we don't turn it on, we're going to be slow and stupid. So, if it took them 50 years, by the way, nuclear power is like unlimited, clean, free energy, and they had to fight for 60 years to get people to embrace the idea of unlimited clean energy. It doesn't surprise me that there'll be skeptics about digital energy. They won't get it. Max Planck said, science advances one funeral at a time. And what he meant was the old guard, they will never, ever accept a new idea. Whatever it is, they'll die. They will not accept a new idea. The only way you get people to accept a new idea is you wait for a new generation of decision makers, and the old guard retires and they age out, or you need a war, and people that don't believe in aircraft, but start believing in aircraft when the aircraft flies over their city and drops a bomb on their head. And people that don't believe in atomic energy start believing in atomic energy if someone sets off a nuclear warhead in the middle of a war. And so I think that disruptive, profound events like a near-death experience like during COVID, I think that introduces new ideas and new paradigms. That's how we got introduced into this space. It was the war on currency and the war on COVID in 2020 that caused us to open our eyes and embrace the new idea. I would say 95% of the decision makers in the finance world still don't really embrace or understand the idea of digital energy, digital capital, digital money. And I don't think it's a bad thing, because the only way you're going to make 10 to 100x your money is if you pick the right thing and everybody disagrees with you.
Yeah.
If everybody agrees with you and you do the right thing, well, everybody agreed you should buy Amazon in the year 2020 during the lockdowns because it was quite obvious that you needed Amazon during the lockdowns. It's the worst investment of the past 5 years because everybody agreed that it was a good investment.
这是过去5年投资比特币和亚马逊的差异。比特币上涨 16.6 倍，亚马逊上涨 1.5 倍，一样的资金在5年后差了10倍以上。所以为什么当所有人都不同意你的时候，才有机会赚到10倍以上的钱呢？又是为什么当所有人都同意你的时候，反而是最糟糕的投资呢？因为投资本身就是在赚认知差的钱。当所有人都认同这是好投资，所有资金都往这里涌入，那要赚什么？相反的，就是因为有人质疑比特币，反对比特币，或是说跟不上比特币，而我们选择认识比特币，投资比特币，才能赚到倍数以上的报酬率。关于投资，有一段话我非常喜欢和认同，分享给你。我们所赚的每一分钱，都是我们对这个世界认知的变现；我们所亏的每一分钱，都是我们对这个世界认知有缺陷。我们永远赚不到超出认知范围之外的钱，除非靠运气。但是靠运气赚到的钱，最后往往会由于实力不足而亏掉。这个世界最大的公平就在于，当 当我们的认知不足以驾驭所拥有的财富时，这个社会有10000种方法收割我们，直到我们的财富和认知相匹配为止。所以，想透过投资赚钱的唯一捷径就是提升自己的认知。你同意吗？同意的话，在影片右下角点个赞哟。
The real power of Bitcoin is optionality. You know, when you decide that you're going to work with other human beings, either as a trusted custodian or a trusted hardware device manufacturer or a trusted hardware wallet, or you work with another corporation that's a trusted team of people, whether they, work on your teeth or work on your heart or manufacture the food or provide you with the aircraft, travel you need. At that point, you can reach your full potential and you do it empowered, with property rights and with economic rights. And the reason that you will be able to trust them is because you have the option to withdraw your trust. Mm-hmm. All right. So I look at it as the great deterrent. If you think about gold and why gold failed, one reason gold failed is it's so incredibly difficult to custody. And so if you look at in the history of gold, in the 1920s, you had 4 great central bankers, and the central banker in Germany was Schacht, and the central banker in the U.S. was Ben Strong. And the world, was substantially on a gold standard, and the Germans had gold. And the French had gold, and the British had gold, the Americans had gold, but for the most part, the gold was either in London or in New York. The French gold was with the British or the Americans, or the German gold was with the Americans. So there's a famous story where Schacht traveled to New York City, met with the head of the Fed, Ben Strong, and Ben Strong wanted to show him the German gold, took him down into the basement of the New York Fed, and they couldn't find the gold. And of course, the message of the story is this. Gold is so difficult to custody, countries couldn't figure out how to, like the entire country of Germany couldn't figure out how to custody their own gold, much less the 100,000 companies in Germany or the 60 million people in Germany. And so the reason gold failed was it was too slow and too difficult to custody, and therefore your property rights were always going to be impaired by a central actor. And, imagine the entire world running on gold-based credit on a gold standard when all the gold in the world was sitting in London and New York City, and most of it was in New York City, and we can say, oh yeah, that's a bearer asset, but not really, because 40 million companies couldn't bear it. 400 million people couldn't bear it, right? And so Bitcoin, it represents the bearer instrument, but it really is practical for an individual to take custody, and it's practical for a company to take custody. And of course, I guess what I counsel to people that are idealists is they don't trust banks and they don't trust companies. But the point that I would make is during the entire gold era, gold was so difficult to handle that no company could custody their gold, and no bank could. If we lived in a world where 40,000 banks were custodians of Bitcoin, you would have evolved from a world where there were like 8 or 6 custodians of Bitcoin custodians of gold in the entire world, right? And so I think that Bitcoin offers a promise of economic integrity, and I don't think we should rail against a bank embracing Bitcoin.
No.
The truth of the matter is, if every country on earth embraced Bitcoin and the countries became the custodians of Bitcoin, and the only thing we accomplished was to have 150 countries custody Bitcoin, that would be more decentralized than the gold standard for hundreds of years, right? It would be an order of magnitude more decentralized than we had under the gold standard. So what we're talking about is a world where if only banks and only governments custody Bitcoin, you would be 100x to 1,000x more decentralized. And if corporations in custody of Bitcoin, you would be 10,000 times more decentralized. And of course, in a world where millions of individuals or tens or hundreds of millions of individuals self-custody, you're not like 1, 2, 3, 4 orders of magnitude more decentralized. You're like 6, 7, 8 more orders of magnitude more decentralized. So I tend to focus upon the fact that the worst case for the cynic is a million times better than the best case we had 100 years ago, or even the best case we had ever,
right?
In terms of decentralized monetary integrity.
Yeah.
很多人质疑比特币真的安全吗？我也有同样的疑问，但是在深入研究后，才发现比特币可能比黄金、比法币更安全。为什么？比特币的发行方式是透过区块链的程式码执行，在2008年创立时就确定了不会因为任何人、任何政府而改变数量。反观法币，各国政府可以不断印钞，我们普通人毫无反抗的能力，导致台币和美元货币价值持续下降，物价越来越高。像是民国50年铁路便当一个2元，现在台铁便当一个是80到100元。但是过去60年来，我们的薪资有增加50倍以上吗？没有任何国家的法币是会随着时间而增值。没有，真的没有。如果有的话，欢迎底下留言告诉我。又像是黄金，虽然增加的数量有限，但是没有人知道总量到底有多少。物以稀为贵，所以我认为最稀有的资产比特币最有价值。你认为比特币、法币、黄金哪个最稀有呢？哪个最有价值呢？我很认同 Michael 说的这句话，我们能信任别人，是因为我们有收回信任的选择权。就像是我可以选择和 A、B、C、D 当朋友，也可以选择不和他们当朋友。但在传统法币上，我们毫无选择的能力。从小我就被教育要努力赚钱，并且习惯所有的金融交易，像是汇钱、领钱、存钱，都必须透过银行。或许你会说，但我们可以选择台湾银行、国泰银行或是富邦银行啊。但这些银行本质上都是一样的，一旦银行突然冻结账户、限制领钱，我们毫无反抗能力。又像是政府，他们想印多少钞票，利率调整多少，我们都只能被迫接受，无力反抗物价上涨，对不对？根本原因就是整个游戏规则不是我们普通人能决定，我们已经被教育成要接受这样的环境，因为我们没有选择权。又像是黄金，多数集中在伦敦和纽约，我们无法改变让它分散在更多地方，降低风险，我们只能被迫接受这个社会的规则。成年人的世界，很多时候我们的决定并不是来自选择，而是迫于无奈。但比特币出现后带来了新的可能，我们多了一种选择，货币不再会贬值，也可以长期增值。我们多了一种选择，可以自己用冷钱包保护资产，也可以委托专业机构保护。我们多了一种选择，可以跳出传统框架，拥抱更广的世界。像我从小在台湾长大，对于游乐园的想象仅限于六福村、九族文化村、剑湖山，坐云霄飞车、海盗船。但是最近去了美国奥兰多的环球影城，我才明白，原来电影《驯龙高手》的梅牙可以和我互动，原来电影《哈利波特》中的斜角巷真的存在，原来游乐园可以这么好玩。所以我们不一定要投资比特币，但是我认为至少要认识比特币，因为这会让我们拥有更多的选择，更好的生活。所以如果你想了解更多，资讯栏准备了免费的电子书和学习影片，相信对你会有帮助哟。我是 Emma， 还会继续分享关于币圈投资、被动收入的经验。记得按赞、订阅、开启旁边的小铃铛，并打开全部，还有 follow 我的 IG 哦，那你就不会错过这些知识了。我们下周见，拜拜。